I'm excited because we're going to have a huge audience today talking about one of my absolute favorite subjects, art direction and posing. So I know a lot of you photographers out there, you guys love to kind of learn new tips and strategies and creative ideas of how to get the most out of your models, out of the most out of the people that you're photographing, and to create something just conceptually over the top. And today we're going to go into the in-depth about art direction, creative posing, developing a concept, storytelling, and how vital all of this is to becoming an unbelievably successful photographer. You know, whether you're shooting fashion, lifestyle advertising, portraiture, weddings, sports, swimsuit, just about any type of photography, art direction and posing is everything. So I'm really excited, guys, and I'm broadcasting here live from my 13th century, 40,000 square foot, 49-room castle here in Massier-en-Cambrai in France. And here's some video that I just shot earlier today. And I'm going to be obviously here shooting some of the incredible fashion photography while we're here, and art direction, some amazing stories, shooting with supermodels from Paris and creating some mind-blowing content to develop this whole cohesive and unbelievable brand of Chateau de Rêve Francais, which is my new brand for my castle, as well as what we're going to be doing for private labeling our own wine. We're developing this as a world-class high-end destination experience for seven-figure guests. So this is going to be a really spectacular experience, but it also, you know, when I get into the art direction side, this is going to be absolutely critical. And then when I bring in models, posing them is absolutely one of the most important things. And I think that a lot of photographers struggle with this all the time. Getting the right expressions out of a model's face, getting the right moment, making sure that when you're telling that story, that it feels natural. Because natural is so important to me. I don't like things that are overposed. You know, you kind of remember back from like the 1980s, models were striking a pose and doing these big, crazy, over-the-top and kind of accentuated aspects of posing. It doesn't really work anymore. You know, that kind of whole over-the-top stuff, and also colored lighting, having like blues and red gels and greens and stuff. And that was big in the 80s, but it's not today. So I want you guys to realize how important high-end art direction is and what that really means. I'm going to bring on several panelists today, and we're going to talk to them about it. We're going to be getting some kind of real-life perspectives on what art direction kind of means to each photographer, how to maximize it, and you know what kind of some of the challenges are that we all deal with, because you know a lot of us, you know, we struggle with art direction. It's something that, you know, it's kind of a ubiquitous problem throughout the photographic industry. Now sometimes we can have that solved because we're working with an art director or a creative director on shooting advertising campaigns, and the art director kind of takes charge and they come up with all the art direction and creative direction, and that's amazing. That's wonderful. But I've run into issues with that. And you know, sometimes if the budget doesn't have an art director, or if we do have an art director, but they're, you know, they have a vision that really doesn't fit with what is really strong photographically. So a lot of times I have to photograph for what the art director says they want, and then what the art director really wants, and what the client really wants. And those are two very different things. So I want you guys to realize, you know, as a photographer, this is absolutely critical to be a world-class art director and creative director and director in general, because, you know, you are just like a TV director. It's really, really important as a photographer to tell the story. Now, you know, photography, and I'm also a TV director and executive producer of the TV show Great Escapes, that aired on NBC. It comes back into syndication in September this year. And then we're also, I have some big news, but it looks like we're going to be filming an unbelievable TV show here on location at the castle. And we're going to be doing something really spectacular with HBO, which I'm really excited about as well. So to me, I'm art directing these stories, and I'm telling these stories because I am also a director. You know, so I have a lot of experience, not just directing photographic shoots, but also directing video. And I think that, there's a lot of it kind of translates back and forth. And a lot of photographers that maybe aren't as experienced in video, that's okay. We can also develop our storytelling capability in photography, and it translates really well. So I think honestly, some of the greatest directors and cinematographers come from the photographic world. A lot of them have. I mean, especially ones that shoot fashion films. For big high-end brands like Dolce Gabbana and Prada and Versace, Louis Vuitton. Yeah, a lot of the directors that film those fashion films are world-class top-end celebrity fashion photographers, and they come in with a different kind of aesthetic, a different type of design as far as how they see light. And you as photographers have a big advantage because you guys are experts at shooting with light. I mean, that's really what you guys are all about. So it's really important to realize that you as a photographer, you guys, you have a leg up on the game in the video world. And that's kind of how I started, you guys. I mean, I did my bachelor's and my MFA to be a professor of photography, and I've been a celebrity fashion advertising photographer all my career. But what I became known for is my lighting and to light high-end productions and create epic moments. And that's where I became really well known for my lighting. So, because of that, I was picked up by an 11-time Emmy award-winning director that said, his lighting wasn't so strong, but his storytelling was great, and he had won all these Emmys. So he's like, you know what? I want to work with you, Kevin. Can you come to the table and actually direct some video, some lighting for my video production? And he was going to direct, and I was director of photography and DP'd, and I kind of started working with Alexa cameras and filming these huge productions. And I realized, you guys, that the filming industry is so much easier than photography. Because as a director of photography, for instance, all you're doing is you're thinking about the art direction of the just how the camera is moving about, whether it's going, you're on a rail going left to right, right to left, whether you're moving in, moving out, whether you're on a gimbal, you're going up and down or around a model, you're shooting with long lenses, wide lenses. But you have a director and you've got all these other people working on set. You might have a set of, 30, 40, 50 people on a commercial, or if it's a TV show, you might have upwards of 80 or 100. So you have all these other people doing all this stuff for you, doing the lighting, doing the directing, the producing, casting the models, all these things, or casting the talent. And you as a photographer, you guys have to do everything. So you have an advantage. And I'm telling you, you as art directors, you really are art directors already. So these are some examples of some of the work that we've done, over the last several years that some of it is that I was able to shoot, and some of it is from my photographer proteges that have attended our photographic workshop series. And I want you to really look at the art direction. And what I mean by that is there a story going on? Is there some sense of emotion, some feelings in the models? What are the poses looking like? Is it sexy? Is it intense? Is it dramatic? Is it anger? Is it a sense of like power, independence? There's all different types of emotions that we can tell. And I love to tell those stories photographically. Now, this is for one of our elite masterclass workshops a few years back. And we actually shot this in collaboration with Flaunt Magazine, which is the top fashion magazine in LA. And we work with these top supermodels, and we shot this unbelievable fashion story. But the art direction I felt was really strong. Now, one of the things that I want you guys to think about here is not only am I storytelling with the model's poses, but also the layout of the image. Now, this is something a lot of photographers struggle with. They want to shoot with the model right in the center. Now, that's okay because, in some scenes, if it's say for a billboard, or, if you're in a sequence where say it's a lifestyle campaign and you don't necessarily need to have it as a double page spread in a magazine, it's okay to have the model in the middle. But if it's something like an editorial, you have to have the models off to the side. Because for instance, if we cut this into a double page spread, this is one page and this other side is the other page. Now, you don't want that seam going right through the model's face. So this is really important. You want to think about how the story is being told from an art direction standpoint, and also where the topography goes. You notice like the Flaunt is on the left side. So that's where the type goes. And oftentimes a story is being told there, photographed by Kevin Michael Schmitz, or, art directed, by so-and-so, or, in this case, we actually, by the way, during the shoot, we shot at the US Olympic Training Facility for equestrian. And it turns out that the horse and the trainer that we worked with actually just won a medal at the Olympics just this week, Sabine Scott Carey, which is really exciting. So actually part of the shoot, they ended up, the US Olympic team went on in, I believe it was dressage, and won like a team medal, which is really exciting. But this is something that is really, really important, and it's often overlooked. But there's certain facets when you're telling stories, you guys, that draw you in, and that you can really tell about art direction. Now, if you guys have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A, because the Q&A, we can answer questions, we can talk about it. I want to bring you guys on and answer them live. This is really important because we're here live here at the French Castle, and I want to talk with you guys as a personal conversation, as well as our panelists, and have you guys ask questions to them. And yes, this is a real background. I know some of you guys are, I've had comments like, oh, is this green screen or something like that? But it actually is live here at the castle, which is really exciting. Here we're, this image right here, what I love about this story right here, this art direction, this was photographed by one of my favorite photographers. I believe this was Mel Sauerbeck. He shot this at the Elite Masterclass with me in Los Angeles at LA Circus. And this was incredible. And by the way, guys, we have an Elite Masterclass coming up this October, which is going to be mind-blowing, over the top. It's the most elite workshop of the year. But what was special about this storytelling here is the models have a certain expression on their face. There's a certain power. There's a certain sense of like, there's a little bit of a female empowerment here because of the way that the leg is perched up on that stand. The other model's sitting down. She has this kind of sense of intensity and power in her eyes. And the posing here, I don't feel like it's over the top, because I mean, we are at a circus, so it has to be a little bit, but there's an elegance to it. And I love what Mel captured here, because, we were art directing this together, and he created this, and also the little details, such as the carriage in the background over here. We had this entire set built on set at the LA Circus, which is really incredible. This amazing tent in the background. We had these on camera left here. We have these other giant flowing kind of tapestries to kind of block what was behind that, because there's kind of a bunch of mess behind that. And then we have such, things like props, like this amazing baton in the hand of the model. And then I also love the gloves on the other model, and creating this story in the sense of intensity, but art directing it so it all comes together and then pops. And we also can art direct with color. If you notice that we kind of have what we call vernacular color, where like a color such as red in this case, or also blue, but generally it's with red. In color theory, vernacular color, it's when a powerful color comes about 3 or more times within an image. So in this case, you have red kind of following through, and you also have blue in between the background and then the model in the foreground, capturing it and kind of drawing your eye in and out. And it becomes important, because when the viewer sees it, there's impact and there's power. An image such as this, we shot this just a couple of months ago. We shot this out in the desert. We did one day out in the cracked earth. This was another one of the days of this epic Las Vegas workshop up in the mountains, right outside of Vegas. And it was absolutely stunning out there. But what I love about this was this story, it's being told with this unbelievable piece, right? This incredible, gold eagle outfit that is just out of this world. This is from a showroom in West Hollywood for the stars. And we shot with a supermodel from Vogue, Valena. And when we're telling the story, there's all this glisten and this shine and this unbelievable feel to the image. And I really get the sense that this model, she feels like an eagle. She feels like she's a bird because of the posing. But it's not too silly. It's not too over the top. It's not like two arms going up and flapping. It's just one arm up, one arm down, and kind of there's a nice flow and a nice angle between the body and the wardrobe. And so for something like this, I love the art direction. I also like the fact that the photographer that shot this at this workshop with me, they're also able to tell the story with a double page spread. So there's a seam down the middle, and the model's off to one side and creating this amazing moment. And then the model is giving this nice little, just kind of a little bit of a chin up, a little bit of a power scenario. Now, when it comes to posing, you guys, this is absolutely critically important. But when you're photographing a top model, for instance, a fashion model that's been in vogue, for instance, like Valena, um, now it's incredible because her model, her face, no matter what angle you shoot it from, is breathtaking. The angles in the cheekbones, the way that the light, strikes her face and comes off it. It's incredible. She has a really, really strong bone structure, and it really helps to have a model such as this. So one of the important factors with art direction is also making sure you have the right talent, because that is part of the scene. The right talent, the right wardrobe, the right location, the right lighting, all of these things, the right makeup, the right hair, that all comes into play with the art direction. But then the model poses with just a slight chin up, a little bit of just a chin up, to just get a little bit of that feel of, okay, there's a little bit of a power to it. There's a little bit of an intensity, and it gets exciting because now I feel like, wow, it's almost like, this feels high end. She's got this amazing expression. It's not overposed. It's elegant, right? And all it took was just a simple chin up. Now, the other aspect of this too is that you look at the beautiful shadows on the face. A lot of times when you're shooting in the middle of the day, which this was, I think, like in the afternoon, brutal light. But I had the model just face up slightly to the light. So we have the light, we have some nice Rembrandt shadow across her nose, but her eyes are glistening, and you have a beautiful light on her eyes. And this, a lot of times, if the face is chin down, then you've got the problem with not having enough light on the face, and then the eyes kind of go dark, and you've got that problem, almost like a panda bear look. So I do recommend, if you are shooting in more in the middle of the day, have the model's face chin up a little bit. It's a stronger look. I think it's really, really powerful to do it that way. And when we're doing something like this, you want to also think about the art direction of the layout. And you notice that, like, on one side, you've got all this space for typography once again, and this would be a great double page spread. So this will definitely get published as a double page spread. This is where the font goes. And then this on the other side, this is where the imagery goes, essentially. So it's a really smart way of art directing a scene. And when you're an like a professional art director would art direct it this way, then you have a copywriter at, like, say, an ad agency or a creative agency, and they would come in and put the copy where the art director says the copy would go, as far as what the text is, right? But this is all part of being an art director. This is really, really important. This is another image that I absolutely love. In fact, Priscilla Evans, who is our production coordinator, she coordinated this. And this is part of the art direction, you guys, is art directing stories, right? Like this, where you incorporate animals, you tie together the wardrobe with the animals. And she coordinated that. She actually coordinated all the high-end fashion as far as the wardrobe, and then also bringing it in with the animal to kind of match the color and the tonality. And you have kind of a nice monochromatic feel throughout most of this image. You have kind of this golden glistening, and this image was barely touched and retouching. It was just almost purely straight out of camera. And so the color was natural like this, and the way it was photographed. But the art direction of the hoof being up like that, the horse, the mane blowing in the wind, the model glancing back at camera, all the little facets of that art direction is super strong. And then you also, of course, have the model again off to camera right, horse off to camera left. So then that seam goes right down the middle, and it's not chopping in the middle of the model's face. Very, very important. But these are all important facets, you guys, of art direction. And it's something that I want to make sure that you guys also master within your own photography, is mastering that art direction, because it's so, so important. Making sure that every little detail in your photographic image is art directed to perfection. It's really, really important, you guys. Now, I want you to start thinking about your own photography, your own art direction, your own storytelling, and what that looks like, right? I want to make sure that you guys start thinking about, okay, if I'm going to create a scene, if I'm going to create a story, how am I going to execute it photographically? What is that going to look like? And if I am going to create a story, not just say an image of a portrait of an up close headshot, which also there's art direction to that as well, but art direction where it's more and just beyond just a simple portrait, but it's something special. It's something where it draws the viewer in and there's a story being told, because that's what gets people excited. You know, that's what gets people excited, is when there's more to it than just purely just a person's face, right? We want to do more. We want to do more with our photography. And I want to help you guys do that. This is really, really important. Now, I also, I know that a lot of you guys have watched many of our webinars in the past. If you've missed any of them, we have some really cool ones. We have them on all incredible subject matters, whether it's secrets of fashion photography, secrets of lifestyle photography, from editorial fashion to swim photography, shooting for resorts, shooting for landscape, photographing travel photography around the world. We've directed these in the Maldives, we've directed them from France, we've directed them from California, from all over the place. And we've created some unbelievable free content, just like you guys are getting right now. And if you guys are interested in seeing more of this, I want to make sure that you also jump on and watch our incredible past webinars, because we have about 30 of them today. And I think that, you know what, like, if you're enjoying, learning about photography and you want some amazing free content, we've got about 30 live photographic webinars that have been recorded that are in rebroadcast for free on the link that I just put in this chat. And I strongly recommend you guys go ahead and click on that and jump on, subscribe to it, and watch all this amazing content, because there's some really cool stuff over the last year and a half that we've been directing these. And I want to make sure that you guys don't miss out, because for me, it's really important that each and every photographer that I can touch is going to be, I can give you more value. I want to give you more knowledge and insight of how you can maximize your photography and be stronger photographically. It's really important to be a better art director, to be a better in the business of photography, to be better at conceptual design, storytelling, editorial, all aspects of this. We talk about them throughout our amazing webinar series. So I really, really encourage you guys to jump on, watch all those and rebroadcast. I think that's going to be really, really important. Now, I also want to make sure that you guys understand that these amazing productions, art direction is also, it's about a production. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to go out and grab my camera and just take a picture out in a field somewhere. No, it takes a lot of planning, right? So art direction also incorporates conceptualizing and thinking about what we're going to shoot, and making sure, guys, that when you're creating these stories, that you're not going to actually just do something simple. You're going to do something totally over the top. You're going to be doing something that is going to be creating and maximizing and manifesting just images straight out of your dream, images that are so over the top that you're going to be so proud to tell your photographic story. It's going to be something that has to be over the top and elite. And if it's not, if it's just something that's, it's just kind of okay, it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to create something, go out and take a picture or whatever, and it's not going to have concept behind it, then I encourage you to start thinking bigger. I encourage you to start creating something that's going to be more conceptually driven. It's going to have more story to it. And I want you to start thinking in story format. Now, a few tips and strategies for this is creating what I call an inspiration board. Right? Now, I do this as kind of like a fun little homework assignment with a lot of my photographers. And that's just basically, and I encourage all of you guys that are on right now, because if you want to learn about art direction, the best way is to start thinking creatively. Okay. So I encourage you to all do this. Now, when I personally mentor photographers, and when my photographic consultants do as well, I'm going to give you guys a little homework assignment. And I'd like you guys to do this right now and start thinking about it. I want you to start thinking about, okay, what is my favorite type of photography, right? What type of photography gets me really passionate? Is there something that I am just like so drawn to, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I create an image like this, then this is going to be like the greatest image I could possibly imagine, right? An image just straight out of a dream, with a parachute and a model over this 30,000 square foot water studio and shooting this unbelievable story. Images like this that are iconic. I want you to start thinking about it and start building a Pinterest board of images like we're looking at right now. Images that are unbelievable and powerful, right? Start thinking about and conceptualizing ideas. Now, the easiest way to do this is jump on Pinterest and start kind of just keywording, looking for images that you're just like, oh my gosh, like that photographer. If your favorite photographer is Mario Testino or Patrick de Marchelier or Merton Marcus or Annie Leibovitz, whoever that might be, or maybe it's a big advertising photographer like Nick Onken, whoever it is that you're so drawn to. Maybe even you're a landscape photographer and you love like Rodney Lau, or Bo Bridges, one of these amazing photographers. Who are you drawn to? And start thinking about that and develop your inspiration. Because I want you to come up with a conceptual creative storyboard that tells the photographic story of what you're going to create on set, right? And I think that's really important because when you create that story, then it gives you some guidance. It gives you like some storytelling capability of like, all right, this is kind of, the direction, the look, feel, and style of what we're going for. For instance, some of the inspiration of what I'm going for my upcoming fashion editorial here on location at my castle is something along the lines of this. This is a Pinterest board put together kind of in line with that Dolce Gabbana. You've got some work from Craig McDean. You've got some amazing editorials that were shot in Versailles. You've got some incredible, it's very just high end. It has this elite kind of sense of European feel. Right. And I encourage you guys to do this too. Take a moment. And I'd like you to do this tonight after this, after this webinar. I want you to start thinking about it and put together your top 30 images that you've ever seen in your life in, say, on location fashion. And in this case, it's on location fashion at palaces, right? I want to do that right here. And I'm looking for the storytelling, the creative design, the art direction. What type of inspiration for the wardrobe? What type of inspiration for props? What type of inspiration for, say, expressions and also movements and interactions? What does that look like, right? Are you going to have male models, female models? Are you going to have both? What does it look like to you? But putting together these stories can really, really help. And even if, they're a little bit all over the place, you can start to dial it down. Like for instance, this one, it's all a little bit high end and high end fashion, but there's kind of a difference here between some of the ones that are more ready to wear and ones that are more haute couture and elegant, right? So if I was going to do something right here at the castle, I would start to dial this down into more of a thematic period piece of what I'm going to create. Now, this is strong, but it's a good start. And then I want to take, okay, certain images that I feel are the strongest and put them into my creative brief. So for instance, the images here at the top, these are more of kind of what I'm thinking in line with what I want to do in my creative brief. So I'm going to take, say, my favorite, I don't know, 6 images or so, and then I want to add to it. I want to add to what that story is all about. And I want to add to what I want to tell in my fashion editorial. And I'm going to develop what we call a creative brief. Now, if you guys have never developed a creative brief before, totally okay. I'm going to actually give you guys an example of one. I'm going to, if you guys are interested, you can always email in, respond to the email that we sent to you to invite you to this webinar, and we can send you a personalized link to some amazing creative briefs, including this one that is one that I designed. I designed this a few years ago, but it's one that we took some of that inspiration and then we kind of took my favorites of it and then we developed this absolutely fabulous palace haute couture fashion editorial. And this tells a story in a creative brief of what I want to tell here at a castle, right? And it come full circle. Now I bought a castle. Now I'm going to be shooting this editorial at my own castle, which is kind of fun. But we're going to be shooting with these huge, elegant dresses, unbelievable models, and we're going to be telling this unbelievable fashion story that is right out of a dream. But you'll also notice right here, there's some details to this. It's not just about the imagery. It's also, okay, what's the story going on? As the supermodels descend from the stagecoach, adorned in high fashion couture gowns circa 16th century, a gentleman leads them to the castle, walking through the elaborate royal gardens. The designer gowns flow in the wind and trail behind them. Upon entering the castle guards intercept the young heiress, questioning the young royalty, holding halberd weapons. The escort challenges the guards with swords drawn. So it just kind of unfolds from there because there's storytelling, right? And now I'm telling this 12-page editorial and I've got, okay, who are the talent? Who's the director of photography? The location, the emotions, the wardrobe, the props, the wardrobe styles, makeup and hair, all of the details. And then here's the inspiration. And this is what I would do. I'm going to pitch this to magazines like Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar, Wonderland, La Facile, all these major magazines, and I'm going to pitch the story. And I've got this amazing location all lined up. I've got supermodels in Paris lined up, and I've got these amazing stylists. And then now I have a great creative brief that I'm going to pitch. And that's what I want to do, is I want to tell these stories. And this is exactly what we do at the Photography Workshop series, right? Is develop these creative ideas and then put it into action to create these mind-blowing photographic editorials and moments. And if you guys are interested in receiving some example creative briefs, please, email in, let us know if you want it, and we can send you a package of some professional creative briefs that you can use as examples and templates for what you want to tell. And I do this all the time. Really, really important to create mind-blowing stories that'll just totally stop a magazine editor in their tracks, getting them really excited about what kind of stories they want to tell, right? So if you guys are interested, I also want to know, okay, you just saw some amazing content, right? And this is also some really strong art direction by some of our photographers. I'm going to show quite a few, including some from David Gesbrecht, Jane Ritchie, Hans J. Paul, Nick Smith, some amazing photographers of ours. But the art direction storytelling here, and I'm going to start with fashion, I'm going to move into lifestyle. But something like this, another really well art directed story here. The model's off to camera right. You've got amazing lighting on her face. You have a little bit of shimmer, and you've got this incredible background where it's not overpowering, but there is some sense of amazing background. It's a shot at a castle designed to be identical to King Henry VIII's palace with the 1500s. It's a shot at our New York workshop, by the way, by David Gesbrecht, and it was mind-blowing storytelling here, and I absolutely love it. So this is really special, and I feel like if we can create stories like this, it's going to completely take you and your photographic ability and your brand to the highest level of your potential, just like it did with David Gesbrecht. And that gets really exciting because I want to make sure that you guys kind of take it up a notch. That you take it up to a level where you're so high end that you can create stories that are elite, that are over the top, that are epic, and that we can make sure that you become not just a photographer, but a true storyteller and a true director, because that's what you are. You're becoming a director, and you're becoming an art director. And that's really important to really think about yourself as such, because I want to make sure that you guys are mastering your creative vision. You're mastering your art direction and your design and layout and storytelling within an image. It's really important. So, all right, now I want to make sure that we also bring some amazing panelists on. We also want to answer some of your guys' questions live here because this is a great opportunity to do it and to get your input and your excitement. And before we bring on a few panelists, I'd also like to launch a poll. And and remember, art direction is really important. And we talked about some of these absolutely epic experiences that we have coming up. And I want to know, like, if you're interested in this, let's say you're coming to the New York workshop and shooting some of the greatest images of your life in fashion, or coming to the Elite Masterclass and shooting images like this, like with Vogue models, art directing stories like this, like shot by Nick Smith at our Elite Masterclass. I'd like to know, if you were interested, how likely would you want to enroll in one of these elite experiences and take your photography to the next level? I'm putting up a poll, and I'd really encourage you guys to answer it, because I'd like to know, you guys super interested in taking it to the next level, learning about art direction and storytelling, or you're not really ready yet, and maybe if you're not ready, why? What's holding you back? I kind of want to know, if you guys are serious about your photography, we need to kick it into gear. We need to take it to the next level, because you know what? Projects are abound. And one of the biggest reasons that right now, by the way, I'm bidding on a 6-figure ad campaign for a brand called Nadam, which is they shoot like, it's like a cashmere sweater company. And I'm up for this campaign because of my art direction, my capabilities to art direct and storytell. So we're going through the whole creative process right now. I'm bringing in my Emmy award-winning writers to write a story for this, because it's not just photographic, it's also video. And I'm going to be telling this amazing story for this fashion brand. So it's going to be fashion, but it also has a lot of story in it. And there's a whole sustainability side to it and an origin side to it, where it originates, where they find these amazing this incredible cashmere in Mongolia, and it has some great story to it. And I'm going through the process right now of art directing and coming up with my full-scale proposal for the final campaign for the 6-figure budget. And so I do this all the time, and art direction is key because I have to tell the client a story. And we have meetings all next week with the client about the stories. I'm meeting them on Zoom right here from the castle. And my colleagues in New York are going to be meeting them and joining us through Zoom, and they're the clients in New York and everything. And we're going through this whole process. But it's exciting because the art direction is what's, bringing the clients to the table, because that's the secret sauce. And that's the secret sauce that each and every one of my photographers that takes our workshop, that's what they get at the workshops, is they get the secret sauce of art direction. It's really, really important. Yeah. And by the way, guys, I want to make sure, I'm going to answer some of your questions. So please, in the Q&A, jump on and ask some questions in the Q&A, because the chat's not always looked at. And I also want to bring on some of our amazing panelists. We have the great Daniel Rothschild. We have Priscilla Evans. We have Dionisio. We've got some incredible people on that are going to be joining us today. And I'm really excited that, to have their perspectives, because not just coming from me, but also the perspectives of, say, some of our other photographers that have attended these experiences. And I'd love for you to tell us your perspective as well. So if you guys are interested, and by the way, I do see, a bunch of chat and action in the chat here. So I do want to get to some of this, some of the questions here. All right. All right. So, I'd love to know in the Q&A, what your perspective is on art direction, where you're at with your art direction, and do you have any questions for me or any of our panelists about how to art direct your stories? What's kind of a challenge for you, and what do you want to be better at? Because that's really important to kind of understand where you're at and what you want to improve. Really, really important. Okay, so let's see, guys. I want to make sure. Okay, we have a question from Paul Lamplin. He asked, you storyboard your poses before going on set? Great question, Paul. I often do. I'm really experienced. I've, been in the industry a long time. So, I've been shooting as a celebrity fashion advertising photographer for the last, 15, 16 years. But I do bring like a posing sheet. For instance, like at our New York workshop in September, we're going to be shooting in New York. We're going to be 2 days in studio, 2 days on location at an unbelievable, epic location in Long Island. We're shooting with supermodels from New York, fresh off of New York Fashion Week. And what we're going to be doing there is we're going to be shooting some high-end, world-class fashion editorial. Now, especially if you're in studio, you need some good poses so the models come alive. So what I do is I print out like a posing sheet of, how I want the models to pose. So I'll literally, kind of like that Pinterest board I was just showing you, I'll print out like, say, 8-10 pages of poses, and I'll literally hold those poses in just little thumbnail pictures, and I'll just put it in front of the model and say, hey, I love this pose. Can you make that happen? And I think that's a great idea, because then the models want to be coached. They want to be told and suggested how to stand, how to have the right expression, and they want to know what to do, right? They're not just gonna, do it themselves. They need some coaching, some guidance, and some direction. So I do recommend that you guys give them some direction. That's really important. It's really, really important. So think about that. Think about if you want to get into this ahead of time, bring in some inspiration board and literally show that board to the models so they know exactly what to shoot. Really great question, though. I love it. All right. So let's go to another one. Okay, Austin R., you're asking good points about shooting for page layout. Can you talk more about how you interact with the models on set? Great idea. I love this. This is a great, great question. Okay, so when we're shooting something like, say, fashion, right? We've been talking a lot about fashion. I'm gonna get into lifestyle in a second. But when we're shooting fashion, it's really important to, first of all, cast models that aren't just beautiful looking, but that also have good personalities, right? And this is a challenge. This is a challenge in the fashion industry, not as much in the lifestyle industry, but in the fashion industry, a lot of models have kind of sour personalities. And, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And you've got to kind of deal, right? Sometimes when you're working with the Russian and Eastern European models, it can be a bit intense. And I have some experiences with that. For instance, it's really thinking about posing the model also and working with models from the model's perspective, right? They're being, bombarded, you're photographing them, and it might be super hot out or super cold out and it's uncomfortable, and they don't really know what to do unless you're directing them, and maybe the outfit they're wearing they're not feeling comfortable in, or maybe they didn't eat lunch because they wanted to skip lunch and look super skinny or something like that, which is silly. But all different things can happen, and I want to make sure that that you make sure that when you're dealing with models, that the models feel comfortable, they feel excited, and they want to be a part of it, right? And so working with them, talking to them as individuals, as human beings, and really relating to them. I build some rapport in the morning, right when the models show up. It's like we'll shoot, we're shooting a big fashion shoot. The models will get there at like 8 a.m. And there's kind of like a hangout time in the morning, right? Before we're out there outside shooting this big, huge, epic fashion production, there's a hangout time. There's a relaxed time where we're chilling. Hair, makeup, and wardrobe is being put together, and this is a great time to get to know the model. So I kind of sit and hang out with the models and have a little chat. I ask about them, a lot of questions. Don't really say much about myself because they already know me and they already looked me up. But I start talking about them and I start to get to know them as people. And then I start finding out more, and I start to really find out, okay, what about this model is going to get them excited. Now, is there a certain element that they get really excited about? Do they like to ride horses, or do they like to ride skateboards, or do they, are they runway models like these models? Did they do walk the runway? They just came off the runway for Versace. So, these models, they can work it on the runway. So I'm like, all right, perfect. Let's feature them doing almost like a runway walk in front of this fabulous castle, right? So that's part of the thinking that goes into it, is getting to know the models a little bit, building some rapport so they feel good, they feel comfortable. Really important so that the models feel like you're totally on their side. Really, really important. And thinking about it from the model's perspective. So those are all my strong guidance on it, working with models. Now, posing, of course, is vitally important too, but I would say the working with models and making them feel comfortable just off the bat, then you've already kind of won half the battle. Really, really important. So if you guys start thinking about working with models, also make sure your productions are world-class. Make sure that the locations are insane, like a location like this, or supermodels like we've been seeing. And I want you to start thinking about the scale of productions, right? Really important to have high-end scale of productions, meaning the grandiosity of what you're shooting is really important to showcase and just wow and dazzle the clients. Because if you have high-end production quality, clients go bananas over your photography, right? It's so important to have world-class production quality. So I want to make sure that you guys think about, okay, like for instance, we just shot with this amazing photographer named Jane Ritchie at the Chicago workshop, and we created some amazing content with this spectacular model in Chicago wearing a mask. We shot in this like the Palmer House Hilton, and it was incredible storytelling. And when we created this moment, and by the way, this was shot on tripod with a long exposure, and we dragged the shutter and like a few seconds on the shutter speed, and then flash strobed it so we can get the background in frame and sharp, and then also photographing the model, creating this amazing scene and sequence. So if you guys want production quality like this, something like this location cost $50,000 a day to rent, a location like this, and it was the Palmer House Hilton Ballroom that was built in the 1860s, is pretty incredible. But you know what? I have access to these, obviously. I mean, I have access to the most insane locations in the world, and I even own some of them. But I can help you guys. I can work with you to make sure that you're creating some of the greatest photography that is beyond what you could possibly imagine. So I also encourage you guys, I'm going to launch another poll, and I want to know kind of what is your budget to develop in your photographic portfolio, to be able to learn your art direction, to be able to master your photographic portfolio, and to take your photography to the highest level. Just so you know, a production budget like this is 60 to $70,000 a day to do something like this, like what you guys are seeing here. If we're gonna go even bigger, like what, we were looking at an image earlier with the parachute and the water studio. Something like this is more so about $100,000 a day production. Just the sheer scale of this. We had about 30 to 40 people on set, and we had, like 5 or 6 giant fans blowing into the parachute. We had all this just insane set. And then this top supermodel, we had a celebrity stylist from Vogue, so, and then we have a masterclass coming up this October in line with what we're doing here. So if you guys are interested, it's a great way with our photographic workshops. We have 4-day workshops coming up September, October, and then all of 2022, we have 5-day experiences where you're shooting all 5 days and creating the greatest images you've ever shot in your lifetime with us, guaranteed. And you're going to shoot just mind-blowing content with top supermodels and creating these stories with world-class art direction. I'm going to show you the secret sauce to how to master your art direction, because that's what I'm best at. That's my specialty, and that's something that, it's not just about lighting. It's not just about, capturing something with the photographic technical side. It's the creative vision. The art direction is everything, right? Working with models and transcending, imagery where it's not just, oh, okay, just a simple photograph, but it's an iconic image that makes you just stop in your tracks. It's absolutely key to really think about, okay, how do we make that happen and how we tell it? And it's a whole nother ball game when you're talking about video as well. Something like, now when we get into lifestyle, it's a lot different. Now we have some lifestyle experiences coming up. Now this was from one of our lifestyle workshops. And, whether we want to shoot an ad campaign for Free People, for instance, what does that entail? And the art direction is a lot different. The art direction for lifestyle is going to be more about storytelling with having multiple models in the scene. Say in this case, we have 3 models in the scene, and that's a lot more complicated because you're shooting with 3 or 4 or 5 or sometimes even 6 models. At our Miami workshop, I think we had 6 models in a scene. Very complicated, very difficult to create, right? To create these epic moments. But the magic comes alive, and when you can shoot, a 6 model scene or, or even a 3 model scene like this one, it really can be noticeable because just the pure production value. It's very expensive to have 6 top models in a scene, or even to have 3 models in a scene. This is an example of, carefully art directed lifestyle sequence, something that just really came together and was absolutely magic. But also you'll notice something. One of the models is closer to camera. 2 of the models are further back. They're all moving. There's all an action sequence. There's wind blowing through their hair. They're dancing. They're having fun. And when I'm shooting a lifestyle story, you guys, I am a totally different person. I'm a different art director. I'm a different photographer. I get excited. I get animated. I'll drink some Red Bull. And I start to talk to the models in a different way. So instead of it just being this carefully art directed story with, photographic editorial and stuff, I start to come alive and I start to get really excited because I'm here to make sure that I'm going to make those models just jump and bounce and get really excited and tell these stories, because I want to make sure that I feel like, as the viewer, I'm inside of the scene with the model. That's what I want to tell. I want to tell that story where I'm inside of that scene. I'm with the model and we're kind of friends. We're hanging out. We're having this grand time. That's what I want to go for, is feeling like we're together in this sequence, telling a story with the models and having these special, intimate moments, right? And that's where that energy comes in. That's where that excitement comes in. So what I do is I make the models dance. I make the models play around. I make the models, just get excited and have fun instead of just, being boring and sitting there. I want to make sure that they are bouncing, right? And being excited and animated. And that's kind of a special aspect in and of itself, because a lot of photographers that kind of want to be wallflowers and sit back with a long lens, and you guys know who you are, and just photograph something from a distance. It's a very different, skill set. I encourage you to get close. I encourage you to get excited and get animated with your models and start coaching them into these epic moments where they come alive and you create these stories that are just absolutely to die for. Images that are just like, oh my gosh, who shot that? I want people to get so excited about what you're doing because the imagery is so epic. It pops off the page because your art direction pops off the page, guys. It's all about the art direction. It's all about the storytelling. And with lifestyle, even more than fashion, the art direction is everything. Because fashion, even if the art direction is something simple, at least you're relying on amazing, wardrobe and, and supermodels and stuff. And it becomes more about their faces and the hair and makeup and stuff like that, and the wardrobe and all of that, but when you're shooting something with lifestyle, it's totally different. You're trying to create these moments. You're trying to make them just completely bounce and get really, really exciting, right? And so some of the secrets that I do with lifestyle is I start to incorporate some fun props too, whether it's an animal, whether I'm bringing in an alpaca, or whether I'm bringing in a Bactrian camel, or whether I'm bringing in, an unbelievable, or a kid bouncing around with a little silky chicken, or we're shooting, with a llama, or doing something, with a rearing horse or whatever. We have all these great moments, and I love to create lifestyle stories with something that I can tell there's a lot of energy going on, right? So for instance, doing something where I'm going to art direct a story where there's multiple model scenes and animals, very complicated to do, but something like this. This was shot at our Newport Beach experience. And we had 4 models in this. We had 2 child models, 2 adult young adult models, 2 alpacas. And we're creating these moments, and we even have a little bit of diversity in there. We've got this different age diversity, ethnic diversity, and we're just telling this amazing story. And this was just shot in the backyard of an estate in Newport Beach at the Newport Beach Workshop. But telling stories like this, very dynamic. Or stories like this, there's a series of images here, and each image tells its own photographic story. There's something going on. There's something exciting and animated, and it draws you in. So visually, I'm drawn into each and every one of these images, all for different reasons, but my eye is being just popped into all these different spots because the art direction is over the top and elite, and the photography is epic, and the art direction and the production value is just out of this world. Right? So start thinking about layout, design, movement. And when I'm doing lifestyle, it's all about movement. And you see on all these images, these 6 images in this spread right here, in every single shot, the models are moving a ton. So I recommend putting on a very fast shutter speed so that your images are, razor sharp. You don't have to deal with any sort of blurriness or anything like that. And make sure that images are, most of these images I'm shooting at 800th of a second or 1,000th of a second so that everything's razor sharp. Very, very important. And then I'm also want enough depth. So oftentimes if I'm shooting say f2.8 or f4, not enough depth. The models fit, one eye is going to be sharp, the other eye is going to be blurry. So now you've got a problem with that. So, make sure to think about all these facets with your photography because it's really important, you guys, to make sure that that when you're creating a moment and you're creating this huge production and all this art direction and stuff, that your technical stuff is there too, right? So make sure when you're shooting lifestyle and there's all this animation going on, let's do a fast shutter speed, say 1,000th of a second, and then a relatively deep aperture. So say f11 or f8. But relatively deep aperture, so multiple models are going to be sharp. And if you have to bump up your ISO, so be it. Our cameras can handle it these days, but definitely I want to at least get a fast shutter speed and a reasonable aperture. Very, very important. All right, a few other questions, you guys. Lady Trey asks, will the webinar post to YouTube? Absolutely, it'll be on YouTube. In fact, in that link that I sent you guys earlier in the chat, if you click on that and subscribe, this one will be available by tomorrow, and you'll have it in rebroadcast. David Koblitz asks, choosing the best side of model to shoot. Good question, David. Sometimes models do have a good side, a right side, a left side. Which side's the better side? The strongest models are the ones that have very symmetrical faces. Right? So if they're one side of the face is almost a mirror image of the other. So if you're casting top supermodels, usually they look the same from both sides. But if you do have a model that struggles with that, definitely start, looking at that before the shoot and maybe start noticing it in their photographic portfolio, David. I'd recommend looking at their photographic or their modeling portfolio ahead of time before you photograph them so that in their book, what's their best side. and start to think about it that way, right? So, hold the picture up so that while you're shooting them, they're like, all right, well, she looked really good when she went that way, or she looked really good when she went that way. Let's go with that. And then you coach them right into it. But definitely I go off their portfolio. I also do that, the model book, when we're kind of thinking about hair and makeup, because sometimes like, oh, the long hair looks amazing on this girl in this picture. Hairstylists, make the hair look like this in this picture of her. It's her hair in her picture, make the hair look like that, go do it. So it's great inspiration for that as well. But definitely look at that kind of stuff in their book, David, ahead of time. Okay, Ariel Robertson asks, is this necessary to work with set designers? Great question, Ariel. Well, I generally don't work with set designers. I have a few times. Oftentimes, they're very expensive. So if you can get a client to foot the bill for that, fantastic. But a lot of times, as an art director and photographer, I'm creating the set design myself. I'm going to be doing it here at the castle by myself. I'm going to be designing the set and developing it. And Priscilla Evans is going to be helping with that because she's my production coordinator. But set designers, that generally comes a bit more into play if it's like you're shooting in studio and the client wants to like recreate a bedroom, or recreate a kitchen inside of your photographic studio. That's when you would more so need a set designer, right? And when you're building a set and you're creating a set in a place where it normally wouldn't be. So that's generally more of the use for set designer. Otherwise, me personally, I like to do stuff on location, obviously. So, if you're looking at, the images like these, they're all on location. They're all outside. So we're creating moments that are all outside on location and we're telling stories, right? Okay. David Koblitz, if you want a posing sheet, I can send one to you. If you guys want to see examples of that, please send me an email, respond to the email that you got from this invite. And we can send you, David and everybody else on here, a posing sheet of what that looks like, because I have examples I can send you, but absolutely. Okay, Melvin Edwards asks, what's some good advice for shooting in a small space like a hotel room? Okay, so those are a challenge, Melvin. I'm just going to straight up tell you, like shooting in a small space like a hotel room can be very, very difficult. Generally, what I'm going to do is I like to, here, I'll show you an example of shooting in a small space. This is a relatively small space. And because in a hotel room, what is there? There's a bed, right? Takes up most of the room. Boom. Let's use the bed. Why not? Right? This is a pretty small room that I'm shooting in, pretty cramped and tight. And I had like, I don't know, 8 other people in this room behind the scenes shooting with us. But we created some moment on the bed, right? We told a story. We got the models, gave them boxing gloves, and they're just wearing little pajama shorts and little short tops, and they're just having a fun time wrestling and boxing. And I literally just gave them the gloves, and I said, girls, go ahead and box and start playing around. I want this model to wrangle the other one. So I had them like get into motions where they were literally wrestling and then they were kind of like quasi punching, and they really were into it. They were really kind of quasi boxing. We did this for probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour straight of nonstop jumping around and boxing, and it was hilarious. And the models loved it. They had a blast. But this is something I would do. This is a good creative example of what I would do in a small space. So Melvin, this was actually at our Newport Beach workshop, and this is a great example of what we could do at a small space. But definitely, Melvin, I recommend coming to one of these experiences because you'll learn how to master it at the highest level. Very important. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to bring on a panelist, because I know you guys have heard from me, but I want to bring on the great Dionisio. He's an amazing photographer, and Dionisio, he attended a workshop with me in Vegas, and that was his very first workshop. He's a super talented guy. He works in another industry, but Dionisio is kind of transitioning to become, world-class photographer with us. And we brought him out to the desert, and we shot with these unbelievable productions and in Vegas, just like we're going to be doing next year in March. Dionisio, I'd love to hear from you and kind of like what you learned as far as art direction and kind of what that secret sauce was on set with me in Vegas, because you got to work personally with me. What was that experience like?
Hey guys, well, it was a wonderful experience. I ended up going there to the Vegas, and in the beginning, I would say I was directing, but not directing effectively. But we had some great input from the team, and my skills by the end of the 5 days was far exceeded than what I had expected to learn that time period. But it was at first a challenge to kind of figure out how to direct the models to get what I want. But after getting that input from them, it ended up being much easier. The models understood what I was asking for, and the photos just produced themselves. It was just amazing.
Excellent. And with art direction, like, was it kind of new to you as far as like art directing at that level and that scale, Dionysia?
Absolutely. I mean, I have given direction to models in the past, which were not at the professional level that we had there in Vegas. And the ease of direction, and after I understood it, it was a lot easier to get what I wanted. But I was not, I had never directed individuals with such modeling skills before. But it was, yeah, it was an experience I want to experience again to get back and learn some more.
Okay, okay. Excellent. And yeah, well, wonderful. Now, tell me about what it was like on set to like be able to shoot with a massive scale set. I mean, it was like $100,000
Oh,
a set out in the desert and everything. What was that like? How was it different than photo shoots you've done in the past?
it blew my expectations. I mean, you treated us like VIP while we were there. The everything that was there, the lighting, the dresses, the models. I mean, all top notch. Even traveling to and from the sets was a great experience with the RVs, the brand new RV at that. It was definitely above the top, and uh, I watched the videos and I've been to the webinars, but once I got there and I was completely enveloped by the team, and certainly your input as well, uh, it was mind blowing, just like you say it, right? Mind blowing, mind blowing. It was amazing. The
Okay.
sets were beautiful. They were over the top, especially the desert one with the girls hanging from the chains, and it's spectacular. Great experience.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. So did you have a favorite scene that you were just like, oh my gosh, like I want to, this was just right out of a dream. Like this story was right out of a
Oh,
dream. Is there something that just absolutely rocked your world?
oh, the desert scene for sure with the scaffolding. We tried to do it day one, but we had that sandstorm come in. But we improvised and got some beautiful shots on the side with the eagle outfit. But going back there, that desert scene was spectacular. Having the models at different heights, each one performing a different acrobatic technique. Uh, that was absolutely my favorite one. And I'm very happy to we were able to get that in.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Yeah. Well, we have to make magic happen whenever we can, right? I mean, that's
Absolutely.
absolutely key. And so tell me, Dionisio, with the whole perspective of like coming to one of those photographic workshops for the first time, what kind of secret sauce did you walk away with? Was there anything that where you were just like, oh
Oh,
my gosh, I learned something or did something that I wasn't expecting?
well, definitely be able to direct better, so I can get what I want from the models themselves. You were amazing at helping me with that, and also lighting. I thought I was comfortable with lighting, but watching the different angles, different heights that you had, and of course you and I talking back and forth on settings and products, uh, that helped me out tremendously. And even today, I am trying to get better at that. But in those 5 days, my lighting technique went from okay, what I thought was good, to far above what I expected in there. But that definitely helped me out quite a bit.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well, cool, man. And what do you want to, where do you want to go next? What's the vision? What's the next step with your photographic art direction? Is there anything that that you're really
Uh,
excited to learn or to grow on specifically?
Absolutely, lifestyle. We did the fashion in Vegas. Uh, Photos or a dream. Now, what I want to do is lifestyle, and that's why I'm going to be seeing you guys here soon, or actually this coming year, for lifestyle, because that is exactly where I want to go.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. And why is that? Why lifestyle over fashion? Like what gets you excited about lifestyle?
Well, I like the fun and the playfulness of the models. Fashion, they don't smile at all, and of course, I come from
Yeah.
very light. I come from a very lighthearted family, and as you and I joked around, and everybody else, I mean, we're all very lighthearted and have a good time. I just feel like that for me just kind of fits into me, and so, oh man, did I lose my screen there? Oh, there it goes, perfect, yes. And so that's what I'm definitely looking forward to is and is directing individuals that are very lighthearted, fun, whether it be one or multiples. That's exactly what that's it right there. There we go. See the smiles, the playfulness of it. That's what I'm going for. That's exactly what I want to shoot. I want those type of images to come from my camera.
Absolutely. And also video. I mean, this was all shot at the Newport Beach workshop, and we're shooting world-class video production with 8K cameras on gimbals. We're shooting with drones. We're shooting with sliders. We actually had two different camera operators. One was filming with like who actually was a camera operator for Avatar. We had another one who's a world-class camera operator. Because I bring in all my A-list people from LA, you guys. So it was epic. And Newport is always sold out. It's just like every year it's just a massive hit, and everybody absolutely loves it because it's really applicable. It's not just about, hey, you know, I'm gonna do some epic fashion experience or swim experience. The cool thing about Newport is that it's the most marketable, and it's the most, I would say, challenging when it comes to art direction, because we're telling these really dramatic stories, and there's all these moments and expressions and energy and fun and being silly on set, like you're talking about, like this, you know, Dionisio. This is being silly on set and having fun at a strawberry patch at Tanaka Farms and just having fun. This is just on one day. Like this whole video is just one day of a workshop out of the 5 days that we're going to be having in Newport. But it's absolutely epic. But telling the story with an art-directed way, and this all entails coaching the models into these right moments, coaching the expressions, coaching that, you know, like you'll see Hannah here has these little moments, and, you know, like the girl on the camera left, and she just, you know, works it. She just has these certain moments. So we have this model who's a Dolce & Gabbana model, the male model in the center, and just having these special experiences where we're creating stories, allowing them to unfold, and then boom, capturing them. So Dionisio, so I'm really excited. I mean, that was your first workshop. I'm so proud of you because you created mind-blowing content in Vegas, the greatest images you've ever shot in your life, and video. And I cannot wait to see what you come up with next on lifestyle. And it's just been such a fun experience, because we work with you just like you've experienced before the workshop, during the workshop, and after the workshop, because I want to make sure that we can maximize your photographic potential.
Yes, sir. You certainly have, and I thank you. And one thing I want to add is when you taught me how to fly that drone,
Oh yeah.
that video was awesome. That was great. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. The drones are amazing, and I can't wait to take you to fly a drone here at the castle, because the drone stuff is insane here in France. And then also, guys, we're going to be filming in the Maldives, which is like the greatest place ever to film a drone, and it's going to be absolutely insane. And we have that coming up very soon, just in a couple of weeks. In about 3 weeks, we're flying to the Maldives, and we're going to be filming as well. So I'm really excited about that. And talk about art direction. Oh my gosh, I've got to art direct it. I have to direct it. I have to produce it and also host the TV show. But we're going to be art directing at a really, really high level there. And I'll actually give you guys just a little sneak peek of what we did last time. This was just a few months ago. We created some really, really cool stuff. Some amazing video, and this was actually that I fully art directed, camera operated, and this includes a ton of drone footage too, as Dionisio was just discussing. But this is something that you know, absolutely key as far as the art direction is concerned, and the layout with how we're telling this story from beginning to end at You and Me Cocoon in the Maldives, and shooting with 8K cameras and filming with drones, shooting with, we're doing underwater, we're doing gimbals, we're doing all this incredible content, and creating these moments with different camera angles, also different focal lengths, and then telling the story throughout it to kind of showcase the experience of being here at this one island, one resort mentality, where each island is a resort in and of itself, and it's just pure paradise, this experience of a lifetime that you'll never forget. And creating and art directing a scene like this to create these moments for them to come alive and then create this magic. And this is the kind of stuff that lands me more opportunities, lands me ad campaigns, TV shows, another TV show for HBO. I've got all kinds of projects going on because of the art direction. That's what these clients get excited about. They want the secret sauce. They want to be a part of this. So this is what I'm here to help you guys with, and this is the kind of secret sauce I'm going to teach you live at our photographic experiences, just like we have coming up in New York in September, the Elite Masterclass in October. We have one in February in Newport Beach on Lifestyle. In March, we've got Las Vegas, just like the one that Dionisio attended. And then we're going to be going to Miami Beach in April. We've got on swimsuit, shooting with Sports Illustrated swimsuit models and lifestyle models. And then in May, we're going to Washington, D.C. It's going to be an all lifestyle advertising workshop, similar to Newport, but it's going to be in D.C. And then June in Chicago for another epic fashion story where it's both fashion and lifestyle. And we're going to be doing something completely different this year, which I'm really excited about. And then we're going to be going to the castle in France and shooting here right behind me at the castle for an unbelievable experience where it's going to be a 6-day experience shooting with a whole Renaissance era carriage. We've got horses. We have a team of horses to pull the carriage. We've got supermodels coming in from Paris, and we're going to be doing a mind-blowing 6-day workshop where you actually get to stay at this epic castle, and you're going to be photographing with supermodels, and you're going to be here for an all-inclusive luxury 5-star experience that is going to completely be something that you've never experienced anything like it before. So if you guys are interested in that, I'd love to host you here. It is a really spectacular experience. Anyway, let me get to some of these questions here, and then I want to get on to our next panelist. We've got some more people in the Q&A. We have from Monica Banadares. And the props that you choose, you do it based in the magazine, the brands, etc. Great question. Now, if it's a magazine, the props. Listen, guys, if it's a fashion magazine, I'm telling the story, right? Me as a photographer, because magazines aren't going to pay shit. So if I'm not going to be making any money on this, I want to at least tell the story, and I want to have an amazing photographic editorial that can go in my book, right? Because magazine editorials don't make money. But what that means is that you get a lot of power as a photographer to tell a story. So I'm going to be the one choosing what those props are, right? So, whether the prop is a horse or an alpaca or a baton, like we saw at that circus scene, whatever it is, I want to create a story that I get really excited about, and I'm going to choose the props. But if we're shooting for an advertising campaign, it's going to be a lot more designed by the client, right? Like this is, we shot something for kind of a promotion for an advertising campaign. We shot this at our Colorado Breckenridge workshop just a few months ago in the Winter
Schmitz
Wonderland.
Here, and I'm on location for the Photography Workshop series, Winter Wonderland Experience. Now we're out in the Breckenridge Silverthorne area. We're up at about 11,000 feet, and we're creating mind-blowing slice of life content. It incorporates props, it incorporates animals, it incorporates world-class models flown in from Los Angeles and around the country.
And what I'm doing here is we have all these props that go along with the campaign that we're trying to shoot for. So these are imagery and video that we're using to then promote to our clients, to convince clients like North Face and stuff to book those.
Having that moment absolutely unfold, creating it, and then capturing it, and then making that slice of life moment occur. Not just photographic, but also shooting different types of sequences really creates a dynamic lifestyle commercial in addition to the high-end photographic content. So I'm really excited, and this is absolutely some of the greatest lifestyle content we've ever created in this now.
So this gives you a little feel of incorporating props into a scene and how that can add to the energy and the feeling and the experience of being there. But great question, I love it. And guys, if you haven't answered the poll, please do. Which photographic workshop would you be interested in attending to transform your photographic brand? Let us know. I want to know what, you want to come to New York, you want to come to the masterclass, Newport Beach on lifestyle, Miami Beach with swim and lifestyle, Las Vegas, Chicago, the castle. What are you most interested in? So please, in the poll here, please go ahead and answer truthfully which one would be the most interesting to you. And if you interested in more than one, choose more than one. That's totally fine. But that was a great question, Monica Banadares. We have from an anonymous attendee, when you send a storyboard to the top magazines, who pays for the styling? Great question. So the storyboard is the concept that I'm coming up with, or that you would come up with personally, and you would pitch that to the magazine. And it's up to the magazine to say yay or nay whether they want to do it. So I come up with those creative briefs, and if you guys want examples of those creative briefs I shared with you earlier, I can share those with you. I can share a few of them with you actually to showcase a few creative brief concepts of stories that I would want to tell. And then that way you guys have the opportunity to then build your own creative briefs. And I would set up a dedicated personal consult with one of our photographic consultants to go into detail about that as well. Now, but in regards to who's paying for it, a lot of times the fashion magazines don't have any budget, so it's probably going to be you. And a good fashion stylist is pretty expensive. So typically my fashion stylists are about $2,500 a day. You know, so if it's going to be say a 2-day shoot, you've got $5,000 for those 2 days for the fashion styling, plus another pull and return day. Those are usually billed at a half of 2,500, so like $1,250 each. So, you know, if it's 2 days, 2,500 plus two $2,500 days, it's about $7,500 just for a 2-day shoot. You know, and if you're looking at like say a 5-day shoot, like our photographic workshops, I mean, that's crazy because 5 days, that's also going to take about 3 days of pulling and another 2 days of returning. It adds up. It can be in the tens of thousands of dollars, just the fashion styling alone. That's why these elite workshops are such a huge value, because it's such an inexpensive way to produce world-class content with $100,000 a day productions. And it's just like a fraction of the cost. And that's why a lot of our photographers do it. That's why a lot of them get involved. But these are some excellent questions. Okay, let's see. Monica Banderas also asks, would you like to come to Mexico to give a workshop? Absolutely, Monica. I would love to come to Mexico. And I've been there many, many times, and I've shot there many times. I love it. And if you want to put together something in a series of photographers in the area, let us know. And we definitely potentially can, if we have enough photographers to do it, we can go down to Mexico. The reason we do the workshops in the cities that we do, like Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Chicago, these very specific cities, is that they're major production hubs where we have some of the access to the best models in the world, the best styling, the best production, the equipment, and I've got my A-list teams. But it doesn't necessarily mean we don't have to shoot in just those cities. In fact, we just did our Las Vegas workshop and it was epic. We even had Dionisio come on and talk about it. And there really aren't any like top models that live in Vegas. You know, Vegas is kind of a wasteland for production, but LA is pretty close. So we flew in top models from Los Angeles to the Las Vegas workshop. So that was really, really special and really cool. And our photographers created just mind-blowing content at the Las Vegas workshop. So that was really cool and really special. So if you guys are interested in, you know, kind of taking it to the next level, learning, developing your brand, both photographically and with video, definitely want to come and get involved in one of these experiences or more, because we have a 95% re-enrollment rate. So our photographers keep coming back and they get really excited over and over, year after year, and they keep coming back. But I hope to see you there, Monica. Now, Jane Ritchie asked a great question around how much do hair and makeup artists charge per day. So the good ones I use, like for instance, Jane, I think you got to work with Dorico Jackson at our Newport Beach workshop. I think his day rate was $2,000 a day. I know that's what I paid him for the last big hair commercial that I did with him, hair campaign. So it's $2,000 a day is pretty typical for hairstyles. Then you have another like $300 a day for his assistant. And then of course, you know, so again, of course, over the course of 5 days with hairstylists, you're looking at $10,000 just for hair. Then you've got another $2,000 a day for the makeup artist. You get the high-end ones, the ones that we use. Like he's a creative director from L'Oreal. And what's cool about that is, yeah, it sounds expensive, but he adds so much value that I was able to land ad campaigns because I work with Dorico Jackson. So because I work with Dorico Jackson, I was able to book a $100,000 ad campaign and pay him $2,000 a day to be a hairstylist. But I was able to book the campaign because I had him attached. So really think about, it's, you know, don't just go cheap on your stylist. Make sure to invest in your stylist because they can, you know, they can help you. They can be an advantage to you. But they are expensive. I would say if it's editorial, you know, you're looking more at like, say, you know, $800 to $1,200 a day for a top stylist. But if it's advertising, 2,000 plus. Yeah. So definitely, you know, think about that. And that's why, again, the production budgets are so expensive. So Jane, I'm really glad that you, you know, you generally, you know, you've experienced this incredible opportunity to work with world-class stylists because, you know, now you get to have world-class content with world-class styling, and it's cost you a fraction of what it is. So Excellent. All right. Well, guys, these are some excellent questions. And before we kind of keep going here, I'd really love for our next panelist to jump on. So please, if you guys haven't answered the poll question, please go ahead and jump on and answer that. And I would love for our panelist to jump on. I'd love to have Priscilla Evans. If you want to jump on and talk a little bit about the art direction and kind of what you've incorporated, Priscilla, specifically, because we talk a little bit about this. She was my production coordinator. And Priscilla is also here live at the castle. She's on the inside. And I'd love to hear from you and tell us a little bit about like bringing in all those incredible animals, bringing in all these amazing props, all these amazing fashion styling, and designing these productions and sets. How is that adding value to our photographers, and what do they need to become, the top photographers in the industry? What does that entail, Priscilla?
Hey everyone, so it's great to be back on a webinar and see you all here. And there's some great questions, so keep them coming, and I'll keep answering as many as I can. So yeah, I'm inside the castle, so this is probably one of the first ever maybe sneak peeks that some of you are getting to see of what the inside is like and what kind of elements are going into it. So this is actually one of the elements I'm sitting on that is going to form part of the amazing, I guess part of the set and part of the props that we're going to use at the workshops we're going to hold at the castle as well. So, damask fabric and all of these crazy, amazing, extravagant extras that go into it. It's just some of it. The animals, obviously the fashion, like Kevin said, most of the time that is with an insane team, multiple, fashion stylists that are coming in. The numbers are pretty crazy, and it is pretty insane when you're thinking about the budget that we're working with. For example, like Chicago, I think we worked out, Kevin, that it was like, was it 20K or 30K or something of fashion we had between it was 3 different stylists, plus you were pulling wardrobe, I was pulling wardrobe, because you just never know what you're going to need, in that moment. And we never, ever want to be in that situation, obviously, where you say, oh, if only, you look back and you said, if only I'd had that, then it would have taken it to the next level. So we definitely don't leave anything to chance. We like to have backup options, all of which are at the highest levels. So, as far as what we are working with, we're pretty privileged here at the Photographic Workshop series, and on any of Kevin's productions that I've been on too. We have pretty insane budgets, and as a result, the branding and the marketing content that you guys and our amazing photographers are getting to walk away with and utilize and enter into competitions and put on their websites and their social, it's the best of the best. And I think, one of the last business workshops, because we've done 3 of those this year, we were talking about that and how important it is to have the right content being viewed by the right decision makers. And you don't want to have anything subpar being viewed by the most important decision maker, be they, I think we've talked on the chat today about publications, high-end publications. Well, maybe you don't want the photo editors at those, really top tier magazines to see content that reflects like, oh, maybe there's a different kind of level of production that this photographer is also associated with, as well as the great images we see. So, the fun part with the workshops is getting those amazing moments where our photographers are like, wow, I've never captured anything to this extent. I've never been on a production this big, because they are huge before. And obviously all the additional elements that go into that. We have had some insane animals this year, as well as supermodels and fashion, all that. The animals we've had, what have we had? The list is pretty ridiculous this year. We've had camels, different kinds of camels, some that there's only 300 left in the world, with our double hump camel in Colorado. We've had that amazing horse that I think that was an image by Evan Siegel, and that was from Vegas, with that amazing dappling on the golden horse. That's a chocolate silver dappled Rocky Mountain gelding. So yeah, that was a bit of a mouthful to learn at the time, but we love it. We love pulling in the most unusual, unique, spectacular, eye-catching, extravagant, additional extras for our shoots and for our props, and to make it just unbelievable and really feel like a timeless and priceless image. And if we can deliver that, then we've succeeded. But the content that you guys get and the content that it allows you to utilize and capitalize on, that's the amazing part there. So, being able to make some serious, impressions on any decision maker, I mean, any decision maker that sees that is just like, what the heck, you know, how, where, when, and also, you know, they see Velena, and a lot of them, as we're told, they stop and say like, what, you've got Velena, you know, Perturba in your book, how did that come about? And it's a conversation starter, and if it's a conversation starter, they're going to remember you. So, you know, anything that makes you memorable. We obviously also do, I know we haven't, I don't know if we've seen a lot of it in this collection, but we do shoot a lot with diversity and different ages, and as well as demographics with our models. So I think, you know, in Miami this year, we had this amazing scene with 6 models. And when it comes to art direction, you know, lifestyle, like Dionisio was saying as well, lifestyle is a challenging one. And I've seen photographers get pretty stressed on lifestyle sets. I think that, you know, compared to that, you know, that fashion image that you saw there, you know, fashion editorial, you've got one model, one horse, and already, you know, you're seeing animals, and a lot of the time we hear animals and children, you know, that's the tricky part. But then you see this, right, the lifestyle images here, and these are dynamic, and, you know, you might have 4 models, 5 models. We literally had 6 in a scene in Miami. And I think that when that's coming together, it's kind of like, whoa, how do I work with this? And, you know, there's only so much. I know, I think one of the photographers mentioned about a posing sheet or something, so that you have your kind of list, your checklist, but you can't be necessarily as rigid as that with lifestyle. You can't just say, here's my checklist done, you know, because it doesn't always work. You have to have a really trained eye. You have to come at this with a really experienced eye, and also to be adaptable, stress-free. You know, I'm a planner, so I'm definitely someone who experiences stress, and I understand what that feels like. But Kevin, on the other hand, does not at all understand what stress is, and that's probably really strange to any of you listening that you know, understand it like me. But it's true, he doesn't. And because of that, in any of these super crazy dynamic scenes where there's so much energy, or maybe at times, you know, maybe we're setting a scene up and it's the opposite. We're saying, you know what, actually this isn't working. Something's not right here. And sometimes with the animals, like when we've had 2, 3 horses in a scene, that happens. But it takes that experience and that adaptability and flexibility to be able to look at that and say, stop, this is not working. It's not worth it. Let's reset and let's do it this way on the spot, you know, change really quickly to adapt the scene, adapt the positioning of the models, look at it and say, you know what, come a couple of inches this way, and all of a sudden this previously kind of chaotic, maybe it felt a little messy or whatever, it just comes together, and it's like, what, how did you know? And you know, for me, I don't have experience with that side of things. That's Kevin's specialty, and it's really, really cool to see. That's definitely the magic, because I definitely couldn't deliver like that. And I don't know if anyone here has a lifestyle. It's something that takes a lot of practice. And the fashion alone there up on the rack, and you think, how is that color going to work? How does it come together? But then with the art direction, does. So the art direction can make or break it. And honestly, to invest in just experiencing what amazing, unbelievable art direction is, especially with lifestyle, it's worth it.
So Priscilla, do you have any suggestions for our photographers of how they can improve their art direction, like right now? Like what kind of things can they do to kind of take it to the next level, like right now?
Yeah, well, I think definitely in the lifestyle game, it's about improving your confidence. You know, from what I've seen, you've got to be able to switch a model from, you know, sad to happy sometimes. And sometimes it's sad to ecstatic, you know, over the top, huge, big smile like Hannah gives, and some of our great lifestyle models give. So, you know, developing your confidence is going to help with the art direction, developing your experience, you know, making sure you've tried totally new things and always trying new things. You know, we always are. We're like, how can we make this bigger and better than ever this time, next time, every single time? So, you know, we're all growing, we're all learning, but definitely, you know, invest in your growth as a photographer. And that's where those improvements will come from. And if you feel like your images, you know, aren't there, or maybe you don't know what the art direction of your images is like, maybe you want to have a review, I'm more than happy to jump on Zoom. We do all of our consulting free. So if want to jump on with myself or one of our other amazing photographic consultants like Dan or Madison at the Photography Workshop series, then we all love jumping on, giving advice on that front. You know, we're all trained under Kevin's guidance, and we've all got, you know, come from really different backgrounds of experience in the industry. So yeah, we do that all free. It's all inclusive, you know, so feel free to take us up on it anytime, and we can give you some input on what we see and where the potential is for growth. And maybe that can help guide you on, you know, what the steps are for developing your own art direction.
Excellent. So you suggest that they set up like a consult with you, because we are offering
Definitely.
free art direction and posing consults with our photographic consultants this week. And I say might as well take advantage of it, you guys. I mean, you've got all these world-class professionals that can really help you take it to the next level. And I think that, you know, it's a big advantage to have that, to have somebody like Priscilla, who's an absolute master when it comes to this, who is experienced with you know, art directing and working with the art direction and putting together these epic shoots. She's a wealth of information. So is Daniel Rothschild. So is Madison Gonzalez. We have some incredible people on our team, and I think that it would completely transform your photography. Now, Priscilla, you've had the experience to be at so many of these epic photographic productions of mine, as well as video productions. How can you describe that secret sauce, as far as like what kind of stands out that makes it so unique and special and makes clients get really excited? And what can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. And also for that that link, if you're wanting to book in for one of the free consults, we'll get that link put in the chat. So just sit tight. We'll get that one added there shortly.
It's in the chat right now.
Yeah, as far as it's there now.
Yeah, you guys can make sure to click on that link. It's a free photographic strategy session with one of our professional photographic consultants. And if you want to speak with Priscilla personally on Zoom, it's a way we want your, but guys, I also want your dedicated attention, because we're really going to get into your art direction. So make sure that you're, you know, in a quiet place on Zoom with your, you know, your computer up, and you can really focus, because we want to help you and we want to really dedicate some time to working with you. So yeah, tell us, Priscilla, a little bit about that secret sauce.
Yeah, so there's so much planning that goes into these huge productions, as I'm sure you all appreciate. But on the days when it comes together, you know, having the art direction or someone there to coach and guide the models in the way that Kevin does really makes it. But also, you know, having all of the elements kind of, you know, at that point, you can't be necessarily so rigid as to have a checklist or to have, you know, just, oh yeah, all this is in place. That's it. You know, it comes down to that amazing ability that Kevin has to just, you know, deliver and create magic on the day. It's really hard to describe. It really is. It's, you know, it's juggling, you know, 50 things at once. It's being adaptable and, you know, rolling with a change that might mean, you know, a new location that we actually never scouted. You know, it might mean, you know, coming up with new elements. It might mean a change in animals or props or anything like that. You know, of course, a model might have, you know, an issue. You know, it happens all the time. They might break down for any number of reasons, and or they just, you know, there's something's going on in their personal life, and you've got to work with that. You know, you wanting fun, bubbly, energetic, and you know, totally positive versions of them, and that's maybe not how they turn up, and you've got to work with that and mold them. So you got to juggle all of that. You got to roll with it, and you know, do it on as grand a scale as possible. And I think that if you're aiming to land anything from, you know, a 5-figure, 6-figure argument, if you're aiming to build confidence, if you're aiming to just step up a little bit, you know, aiming to earn more next year, or you know, come out of COVID stronger and approach maybe a new part of the industry, then you got to invest, you got to grow, and you've got to, you know, at the very least put some time into studying, you know, what is currently working for you, what's not. Taking the advice, you know, we're more than happy to give it in a really constructive way, I think, and you know, it comes from a pretty good perspective as far as what is relevant, current, and what's going to get you booked right now. So from a business perspective, it's very solid advice that we can give. But also, you know, if you're in it for the passion and for the love of what you do, we've got, you know, a lot of hobbyists as well out there. Then, you know, if you're aiming for that next amazing image, or, you know, ability to design it, or wanting some more advice on any of the aspects from the planning to the delivery, you know, we can help with all of that. So yeah, we love connecting and networking with new photographers. So we are more than happy to jump on. We love to give advice where we can, and get to know our audience better. So definitely jump on. If you've got any crazy ideas as well about the next amazing element you want to work with at a
in a production, you know, we build every single thing around what we've had requests for. So yeah, definitely let us know what the dream is to shoot, and you know, it might just happen in one of the next upcoming workshops.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Priscilla. That was amazing. I want to answer a few more questions. We had the great Tom Marantet ask, who also attended our Newport workshop and has signed up for a few more of our epic experiences coming up. He says, I noticed that you have more fashion workshops and lifestyle workshops. Is it harder to produce a lifestyle workshop than a fashion workshop? Yeah, Tom, I mean, in general, they're both very, very challenging. They all have their challenges, and some things are aspects of it are more difficult and some are less difficult. I would say with lifestyle workshops, just the sheer production of it is insane because of all the models that we have to book. It's very expensive, it's very complex, and to be able to create this huge story around a lifestyle scenario, it's a lot more complicated, and it's very expensive to do high-end lifestyle. That's why we're really known for it, because we're the only photographic workshop in the world that does high-end lifestyle photography. And develop big advertising level photographic, workshops at the highest level. It's because it is expensive, it's complicated, and most importantly, the art direction in it is what really sets it apart. In fact, these are some of the lifestyle ones that we did in Newport and LA. I think this is from our Elite Masterclass, and this is from Newport Beach. In fact, Daniel Rothschild was attended this one, and I'd love for him to talk a little bit next about this as well, and kind of what the advantages of really elite art direction, how that really helps your portfolio. And before Dan gets on, I'd really encourage you guys to jump on and take advantage of a free photographic art direction consult, and consult with one of our specialists about art direction storytelling and creating that epic moment, how to do it, and kind of what some strategies are for posing and art direction. Go ahead and click that link that I have in the chat, and you guys can set up your own free one-on-one consult strategy session with somebody on our team. So Dan, I'd love to hear from you. If why don't you give some guidance? And because I know you've worked with hundreds of my top photographers. In fact, most of the photography that I've been showing today, those are your photographers that were, most of them are the ones that you've worked with personally. So can you talk a little bit about that, and why art direction is important, and what you see kind of takes photographers to the highest level when it comes to art direction and posing?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Kevin, and you and Dionisio and Priscilla. Gosh, you all went over such great things. You've touched pretty much on all the points, but I'll choose a few brief topics that I think are very important. And hi, everybody. So let's see. A major component concerning art direction and posing talent, the models and all, I think it's what it is that many times is missed, is the framing. You brought it up earlier, Kevin, but just let me make a point. It's super important. Most photographers end up framing the photo around the model. And I don't know what word to respectfully say, but it's really a mistake or a error, unless it's just swimwear. You have one model. You're not telling a story. You're just shooting the fashion, or it's in the studio in that sense, where they're the only subject. But with the art direction, what's important is you're creating art direction and doing it and the posing and everything to tell a story. So you're creating a story. And you brought it up, Kevin, beautifully, and you always have. It's one of your amazing talents. So the framing needs to be around the story. So the framing and the photo, your focus has to be the story, the whole picture, not just the model and what's going on. So you really have to pay attention to that and take time to do that. It's super important.
And Dan, here's an example of what you're talking about. You mentioned just pictures of a model. This is one of Jane Ritchie's images, one of my absolute favorite photographers that attended our workshops.
Totally,
and she shot this in Miami with all this diversity, all this story going on, with a really complex set here. I mean, this is 6 models, all you know, having their own action and creating a moment and energy in an incredible location like Miami Beach. And just like what you're talking about, this really tells more of a story, doesn't it?
It does. And that is what is going to capture the attention. You have not only the story, but exciting and all. Jane did a great job. She didn't focus just on the models. She took all the models and the scene and directed it and made it just off the charts great. So it's exactly right. So this is super important. And I've seen it over and over as photographers, because look, we're human, get enamored. The models are incredible that we work with, you know, and so of course our natural attention can go, oh my gosh, it's the model. It's not. They're a component. They're, pardon the non-human comment, but they're a prop. They really are. So it's really creating a story, because that's what will grab the attention. You know, so the second thing that's really important that I'm not sure, there's so many that haven't really captured this idea yet, but please listen. Art direction and posing the talent is all about creating a wow factor photo. And Kevin, you have pointed it out many times. And when I do photo reviews, you know, for portfolios and all, I first look without thinking, because what I'm looking for is the photo that's going to, where I drop my jaw and I'm just wowed, because I look at how do we get the attention of the creative director, the art director, the one making the decision who's hiring for the companies, you know, how do I grab their attention for the million photos they see every day? There has to be a wow factor. So the art direction, the storytelling, it has to, your whole intent is to stop the client or potential client in their tracks. And all the details that are being, you know, put together to do this, it must be planned. So now, there's a caveat. The only thing, this is my take on this, is the only thing that is not planned is the capture of creation's moment. Because lifestyle is you're not having them pose, it's not deliberate. You're capturing that one moment where nobody is being deliberate and you're right there in the middle. Look at this photo. The photographer was right there with them and captured the moment. And so it's really important. The only way you get that chance is with strategy, planning, with a story in mind, and all of that. But it's a super important point, because the wow factor is how you're going to get hired, part of how you're going to get hired, or at least that they want to talk with you about being hired. There's other components once you are being requested to be considered that we can talk to you about. So, but you know, photography, a lot of times I find that photographers they go with what they like, and they miss the point of what the client, you have to think like the client is going to think, not how you may love a photo you have taken, but you have to think, is that what the company is going to want to use? Is, you know, so when you're doing it for your own enjoyment, I call it art for art's sake. The other photography focus is to capture and motivate your client to want to speak with you and hire you and again and again and again. So these are just some basic points that have already been discussed, but they're really important. The framing, the planning, the strategy, the framing, the wow factor, and that capturing that one moment. And you know, you mentioned secret sauce. It's really, I think, one of your greatest teachings, and what you share at the workshops and working with photographers. The secret sauce is your art direction and showing them how to capture that moment. Because it's, I mean, look at this photo. You could just sit there and stare at this photo and keep looking and never be bored. It's just beautiful. And that's the idea that you want to create. It's in life at the moment. So there you go, Kevin. That's,
yeah, Jane,
those are my few points.
In Newport Beach, and this is another one of this is Dan's photographers that he's coached throughout, and yeah, all the little aspects of the nostalgic, like light streaming in, backlit. We're at this beautiful strawberry farm where we incorporated a horse that Priscilla brought to the table, and then this incredible dress that flows down, and she's in this really kind of very free people kind of branded moment. And when we're creating that moment and allowing it to unfold and capturing it once again, and that's where that art direction really comes into play. And I'm very impressed. Well, thank you so much, Dan. That was a really great insight. And guys, if you want to also set up a photographic strategy session with Daniel Rothschild here, Priscilla Evans or Madison Gonzalez are all incredible, and they're here to be dedicated to you, and it's just free of charge because we like to help photographers. Absolutely.
Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
Trying to see how to get off here.
So we're here as we're here to coach photographers. We're here to guide you guys. We're here to be giving you as much value as we can. And I have made it my mission. I've directed the Photography Workshop series for the last 12 years. I've directed over 130 of these epic experiences. I've coached thousands and thousands of photographers, and I've given photographers the opportunity to take it to the highest level of their potential. And art direction, you guys, is my favorite thing to teach. It's so much fun because art direction is all about being creative. It's the conceptualization. So I want you to start thinking about things. I want you to take away from this is, all right, when I'm going to do a photo shoot, it's not just taking a picture. What story am I telling? What's the story? What's the concept? Is what's going on between the models? What's going on, between the models in the environment, or the model in the animal, or the model in the scene? What is going on? I really want you to start thinking conceptually, and then art direction wise, as far as aesthetically, how it's going to play out, from the details, the hair, the makeup, the wardrobe, the location, the models, the styling, the prop sets, everything. How is that going to unfold and make that magic happen? And, and what can you do to make it even more incredible? So guys, I'm so glad that you guys had this opportunity to jump on, and I'm just going to answer the last couple of questions, and then I'm going to then see you at the next one. But Amole Ayo Kiinde asks, how does one sell their personal creations? I mean, selling one's photographic work. Now, that's a great question, Amole, and I would say that I would highly recommend you watch a whole series of our epic webinars that we have specifically about closing the deal, about booking more clients, about being more successful with marketing, with branding, all facets of that, really important. And we have webinars on each and every one of those subject matters that you're requesting. So definitely click on that link that we listed in the chat on and watching the rest of those webinars and subscribing to our page. I'm gonna send it again, but I definitely would encourage you to do that. But essentially, one key factor to getting clients to pay attention to you is great art direction, great concept. Because remember, especially if you're dealing with, like, say, an advertising campaign, you're dealing with sophisticated art directors and creative directors who are professionals at art direction, and they appreciate good art direction. So if they can see concept and art direction and a really thought out and well-produced story, they're going to be far more likely to work with you. Really, really important, right, to think about that. So guys, I want you to start thinking about, okay, what kind of story are my images currently telling, and how do we want that to change, right? Is there something that we want to change in our storytelling that maybe it's not quite there yet? And it's okay, I mean, I'm constantly trying to transform and change myself. And I think it's totally okay to do so, because I want to always become better. I want to become the best photographer and art director that I could possibly be. And the thing is if we just keep doing the same thing, we're never going to really expand. We're never going to be better. So I want to make sure that you guys start really thinking about, okay, what can I do? What can I do to improve? And if I'm not constantly improving, you know what? If you're standing in the same place and not improving, conceptually, creatively, photographically, then you know what? You are stuck. So I want to make sure that you are not stuck. I want to make sure that you get beyond that. I want to get you to the point where you become this world-class photographer that is literally becoming the greatest version of yourself. And if you're not, then you know what? You're going backwards. So make sure that you really can strive forward and get the most out of your photography, because I want you to be successful. I want you to be the best version of yourself in art direction, and creative posing of models' faces is absolutely critical. Now, I just put on a one last poll here. I'd like to encourage you guys to answer it. And I wanted to go through my very last thing before we wrap, which is posing faces. One of the secrets that I like to use is something where, and I'm going to demonstrate it right now. If I'm photographing, say, a celebrity, or I'm photographing a supermodel and their face is absolutely the most important part of the image, I'm going to have the model essentially crane towards camera. And almost like you're going sideways, like if they're looking at camera, you want the model sticking their face out. And it might look a little funny, but you're going to have the model leaning towards the camera, just like I'm doing now. It makes the face larger on camera, and it makes it aesthetically more interesting. So when you're posing a model, to have them almost, stand where they are, but then move their face closer to camera. And I do this almost exclusively when I'm doing lifestyle photography, because lifestyle photography is even more important to kind of get this out of it. Whereas if I'm shooting fashion photography, I don't always have them crane. But with lifestyle photography, I'm trying to get that expression out of them, that energy out of them, and I always have them almost like falling towards camera. So as I'm art directing them and I'm photographing, they're coming in towards camera and almost running into me. It's kind of a secret way that I maximize my scene. So start using one of those strategies. I would definitely encourage your model to crane towards camera and fall into camera. And trust me, it really does look more interesting aesthetically. So I want you to really start practicing that. Here, I'm going to show you an example of exactly what I'm talking about. You can see this on my website, kevinmichaelschmitz.com. And it's an image where two models, and they're both literally falling at the camera, almost running into me. I'm shooting with a 17 to 40 millimeter lens. And I have the models like within, 3 feet of my lens. And I'm creating this dynamic wide scene. Now, of course, with a wide lens, it's really easy to get distortions. So you have to really balance that, making sure that the camera is right in more of the center of the scene so you don't get distortion up or down, but having the model coming towards you. Another aspect is if it's lifestyle, you want them caught in the moment. I love having them caught in a laugh. Now, if they're in a big laugh, it's okay to have their eyes closed, like in this circumstance, because it looks natural, but have their mouth open. Love the mouth open, love lots of teeth. I love big expressions. That's lots of fun. Love hair flowing. I love the expression of energy where they feel caught in the moment, right? Caught in the moment. Having that moment unfold, having them having laughter and energy and playfulness and coming together, absolutely key to making that magic happen. Having a moment where there's two people interacting, having fun together, having those sequences where there's maybe a party going on, they're shaking up champagne, they're spraying it on each other. All these moments, they come together. Another thing with posing is if I'm shooting fashion and say I'm shooting in studio, one thing I love to do, and we're going to get in depth about this at the fashion workshop in New York, is we're going to create a lot, like when you're shooting in studio, it can be a little bit sometimes sterile. So I want to make sure that the model appears like they're moving. I like having like movement where they're stepping in. And if you're shooting on a white seamless, sometimes it can tear up the white seamless with their heels, but having them almost like on their toes, doing like a big step and pounce. And I think that can look really, really interesting. We did this a bunch in New York. We did this a bunch in Las Vegas, and we created some really fantastic moments where it made a scene that normally was a little bit more static because it was in studio, but we made it more dynamic, incorporating some of those posing techniques that we're talking about. And for instance, in New York, I'm going to have like a posing sheet with me where I'm going to be showcasing these poses to the models. So, I'm going to show you guys an example of what I'm talking about. So if we're shooting in studio, something like this, right? These are some interesting poses. and always having the model's face going towards the light. Really, really important. If you move the light to the other side, you know, like I'm moving a light to the other side here, you don't want the model facing this way because now you don't have the correct lighting on the person's face and it's not going to look right. But if you have the model, if you move the light and then you have the model looking into the light, it's going to be much, much stronger. Right? So always be aware where the light is. And I always have photographers make this mistake at our workshops because they end up wanting the model to look back and forth and back and forth. But if the model's not looking into the light, you're going to have terrible light and it's not going to look right. And then now your image is you have to throw it out because it's not going to be lit properly. So make sure that your model's face is always going into the light and having the proper lit scene, just like these images here, right? And then of course, these are a little bit more dynamic, but having something like this, you know, where there's some light on one side and you have a lot of drama. Generally, the lesser lights you have, the more drama ensues, right? And then another facet of art direction. Having a pose, for instance, like this, where she's like picking up her dress and tossing it, or something like this as well, also brings a whole sense of feeling and intrigue, and there's just this delicate aspect of tossing the dress. I love stuff like this. It gets me really excited and energized. But just thinking about all these facets of art direction, very, very, very important to make sure the poses and the art direction all align, and making sure that everything kind of comes together. And by the way, I'm just sharing the results here. I asked what's the most important creative photographic skill you want to master? And it looks like storytelling, which I love to hear that. Storytelling wins, art direction being second after that. Storytelling is so key, guys. Having really dynamic stories is something that's critical. And we're going to be directing a live photographic workshop specifically on art direction and storytelling coming up, and we're going to be announcing that soon. So if you guys are interested in that, it's one where you can do it live from Zoom, and it's going to be a 6-hour intensive on art direction and storytelling. It's going to be an incredible experience, and we're going to be art direction, posing, storytelling, putting it all together, and it's all about the creative aspect of mastering your creative vision in photography. And we're going to be announcing that soon. So if you guys are interested, I would strongly recommend you jump on and get involved with that because it will be an experience of a lifetime. We just did back to back to back amazing workshops on branding for photographers, marketing for photographers, and closing the deal. The next one is going to be on art direction, storytelling, and posing. So I'm really looking forward to working with you guys on that. It's going to be an amazing moment. And if you guys are interested in anything that we do, I definitely recommend you talk to your photographic consultant and you talk to them about you know, coming to one of these amazing experiences because they are almost all sold out coming up because they're very, very much in demand. And as Dionisio experienced, as well as Jane and many of these other photographers that have attended, the workshops are sold out and we have waiting lists for most of them. We do have one final spot left coming up in New York. So if somebody does want to come to that one, it will be an experience of a lifetime. And the New York workshop is the most elite fashion workshop we do of the year because of course the supermodels from New York. This is from New York last year. We had models from Versace, Giorgio Armani, Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar, and we shot mind-blowing content in New York. And if you guys are interested in something like that, there is one final spot left. It's a 4-day experience and we're gonna be shooting all 4 days and creating the greatest high-end fashion of your lifetime. So I'm excited, guys. I really thank you for joining me live here from the castle in France. And we're going to be here for another few weeks shooting and filming. We've got TV shows we're going to be filming. We've got photo shoots we're going to be producing and shooting here. There's a lot of action. I'll keep you guys in the loop with sneak peeks. And then we're also going to be filming in the Maldives and creating absolutely mind-blowing content for more episodes of my TV show, Great Escapes. That starts airing September 13th on CBS, and I recommend you guys jump on and watch that as well. But this has been an incredible experience. I'm so glad you guys have not set up a consult. Please do it in the link there. And I cannot wait to see you and help you personally master your art direction and master posing and become the greatest photographer of your potential. Thank you, guys.